What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the ladder scene in Scream 6 yet again. Talk about what I've been starting to see online regarding it. Now, a few days ago, I did my ranking of all the deaths in this movie, and Anika is number one. Sorry to spoil my couple-day-old video. She's the best death, I believe. I talked about it in that video. I actually went on a long rant in that video about not over-analyzing the ladder scene. I cut it because I thought, you know what, I want to go off and I want to make a whole video on it. So that you won't actually see it. It's like a deleted scene in the last video. But here we are, and I want to talk about the whole thing. So to catch people up, and by the way, you can have whatever opinion you want on any of these films, on any of the scenes of these films, on any of the characters, but I'm allowed to have an opinion on what other people say as well, so we're all kind of equal. So on Twitter, there's a lot of love for this film that I'm seeing, as it goes on Paramount Plus and all that. And then there's some people being critical, which is fine, but there's people being critical of certain scenes or certain themes of the film or whatever. So one of the things I've started to see is this, in my opinion, this over-analysis of the ladder scene, of why does she stop, all this kind of stuff. And so I said this very briefly in the last video, but let me make it a very clear statement here. If you're gonna overanalyze or analyze, to take the subject, I think it's overanalyzing, but you may not. All right, that's fine. If you're going to analyze anything, right, and you're going to be critical of it, you need to be consistent. It's one of my key things. Now, I'm not always consistent, but I would call myself out. I hope other people call me out, and I try to correct the record when I've made an inconsistency. You can change over time, by the way, but you should still be consistent generally. All right, so for me, if you're going to be critical, you need to do it for any. So if you're going to analyze this ladder scene, I hope you're analyzing the whole movie, and I hope you're analyzing any other death of any of the other Scream movies, because I'll tell you, they're not all perfect deaths. There's deaths from 1 to 6 that you could probably poke holes in any of them if you tried hard enough, okay? Now, again, I'm not saying don't be critical, right? That actually goes against me. I'm actually a very critical person, I feel like. But you know what I mean? You can think whatever you want, but I would just say that as a blanket statement. I don't love the over-criticalness of this ladder scene because I feel like you're kind of singling it out. Maybe it's kind of got too much hype. Too many people liked it, whatever, because it is, in my opinion, one of the best scenes, if not the best scene, like a sequence, like a 10-minute long thing in the entire movie. So maybe because it's so exciting, then you start to say, all right, well, is it actually as good as we think it is? And that's okay. People can do that, and people have. Here's what I'll say, though. I would say she gets credit for me because she even made it on the ladder. So the first thing I would think of if you're being critical is, I think she should have been dead long before she got on the ladder, right? So not, well, why did she stop on the ladder? Not, well, why couldn't you just climb a few more or whatever? I don't even know. You're technically climbing the ladder. If it's, if it's flat, are you climbing it? I don't really know. But the fact that she even got on it is progress, in my opinion, because she gets stabbed and she gets opened up quite a bit. Now, I have seen one argument of why did it take Sam so long to take the knife block? And I would say, yeah, your friend's getting opened up in the other room and you're standing there, not knowing what to grab. Just grab the thing of wood and whack Ghostface with it. So I would maybe agree with that part. But the fact that Anika gets so hurt, I mean, you look at some deaths in Scream 3, that would have been enough, right? If you go back to Scream, I'd say even 1, 2, 3. I think what happened to her in the room, in the living room, would have been enough to kill her, immediately. So the fact that she even makes it into the bedroom is already wow, you're ahead of the curve. you're a strong girl. You know what I mean? Because you're literally dying. And the thing is, they present it as, and I fully believe this, they present it as if she makes it across the ladder, she's good. They're all good, but she in particular would also be good, even though you'd imagine she'd be bleeding out. All this stuff would become it'd be very gross. It'd be very bad. And she should have died, right? So again, the two arguments I've really seen are her stopping. I guess there's the one kind of goofy kind of moment where she stops, she looks up, and because they all look, right? The other three, they're looking across because Ghostface is there. She looks up and she says, what? And I think people are kind of looking at that as, well, who do you expect to, why do you think they're looking? You know what I mean? Why would you even say that line? I think it's just a cool line. I think it's also a little comedic. One thing I appreciate, and I've always appreciated with Anika in that little sequence, she still has her humor. And you could say, well, is that really realistic? I guess I don't know. I feel like some people may do that in like dire situations. They may still kind of tap into that more, kind of comedy element of themselves. But her, sitting on the bed, they're bleeding out, and, she's talking about like, say something more positive. Clear, like it's more aligned with a joke. Like she's trying to make light of it in a sense, which I really like. I think that actually, and we've talked about that with her character, I think that adds to her character, that even in such a bad situation, she's still, I mean, it's serious to an extent, but it's also like, she's trying to be a little lighthearted, even though there, and it fits. It's not like a joke that's so misplaced, because it's half a joke. It's not a joke that's so misplaced that it kind of ruins the tone of that scene. I think it actually fits really well. So by her saying what, I think kind of fits her character, where, I mean, of course, what? It's Ghostface. He's right behind you. Like, who else would it be? But at the same time, I feel like her character would actually do that, right? And then there's the idea that if she didn't stop to even say that, she just climbs a few more and then she makes it across. I think like how you view or how we view the ladder is interesting in this one, because I think in some angles it can make it look like it's not any distance at all. You know what I mean? Depending on which frame it's at, if it's looking at it like top down, if it's looking at it across, it can make it look like she's closer or further depending on how you do it. I mean, ultimately, I guess what it comes down to, because she almost grabs Sam's hand, if she makes it 2 or 3 more notches on the ladder, she's probably good. But again, I guess that's true. That is true. Like, that's factually true. She should have just kept going and she would have been okay. But I would just go back to, if you're gonna be so critical on that, my default would be, if you're critical on that, shouldn't you have stopped at why is she alive here? Like, you know what I mean? Like, she shouldn't have even made it halfway across. She shouldn't have been able to get on the ladder in the first place. She shouldn't have been able to get into the room. So I think already you're playing with a suspension, and the whole movie does this. Chad, right? You play with a sense of disbelief at this point that some characters, like, either they can't die or they can take way more than like an average person would. Because again, you look at Chad stabbing at the end. If a character, again, 1, 2, 3, even 4 to an extent, if any of the characters in like the Wes Craven era get what Chad got done to him in 5, or in specifically 6, right? But also 5, they're dead. I mean, I've joked about it with Kirby before. You look at 4, Kirby's death is really, if that death, right? But if that happened in 5 or 6, you'd say, oh, no big deal. Anika got done worse than Kirby did in 4, like by a mile, before she fell. She got done way worse than Kirby. But if we were back in 4, we would say, oh, she's done. As soon as the knife goes in her and starts to open up, you say, Anika's done. But we're in a different belief system now, right? Where you have to kind of give it to them. So that's what I would say to that. Of course, if she makes it a couple more things, she's good. Number 1, the character has to die, so there kind of has to be like a movie reason of why, why she can't get those last couple. To be honest, I think if I were to do a redo, because I think the whole sequence, as we talked about, is so good. I think it's so good. It's one of the best sequences in all of Scream. If I had a redo, I would simply say, maybe just have her start to slow down because she's injured, right? Like Sam, the thing is, like, Sam makes it across and Mindy makes it across really almost, it seems like record time. I feel like Mindy almost makes it across faster than Sam does, and Mindy, has the cut on the arm that's kind of like bleeding profusely, even though characters can get cut and stabbed in other places and it doesn't really matter. Obviously, Mindy's slice was like super bad. Again, see, that's that disbelief where Tara gets stabbed by Ethan at the end, and, Mindy gets sliced on the arm here, and it is a big deal. But then later on in the movie, that kind of situation would not be a big deal. So, like, I would have preferred that Anika kind of gets up on the ladder. Because if you really watch it, she gets up on the ladder. You can't... If you told me that her stomach was opened up, I wouldn't really believe you. I don't really know where I would think she's injured, right? She's got, I mean, you see it right here. She's got blood on her face. I'm trying to, left is right and right is left when it comes to green screens and cameras. But you know what I mean? So you wouldn't even know. So at that point, it's already a suspension of disbelief. A character like this could never get on the ladder and start to crawl in the first place. So if I'm going to do a redo, I would kind of prefer you have her start to slow down because she just can't do it anymore. Maybe she starts to like crawl like on her stomach, like she's laying down and she's crawling, but she can't do it anymore. you know, if you want to go more of the realism, I would have gone for that. I think they kind of leaned into the character of Anika a little bit more, and just that kind of moment, Ghostface comes over and it's like, oh, you're screwed. You better hurry up because the ladder's going to start to shake now. Obviously, that's the path they went. So hopefully you found this video entertaining in some degree or some fashion. Kind of just went with it. I had this thought as I was recording another video, so hopefully this works with people. But let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on for more videos like these, and I'll see you all on the next one.